it's just an example. Purdue losing to Fresno State is okay. We can still win the Big Ten West. Me,
Billy Napier gets fired. I'm just kidding.
really the best time of the year. I will be seated watching Red Zone for 7 hours on Sunday. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to an episode of Back Here at Banter. Tanner, James, and Johnny, we are back. Football season's back. And also, I have a surprise for you guys. I didn't want to tell you guys off here before we came on, just so it feels like back.
Yes,
Mayo decided to stop by.
Hey,
Get a little surprise
Cue
visit.
the music. Cue
What's
the
up?
music.
So we
Let's
are
go.
Oh my God.
I didn't want to tell you guys. That's why I was trying to speed us to start.
The
Mayo
gang is
hit me up
back.
today and was like,
What up, boys?
he's like, I'm gonna slide
What up,
by.
man?
We come on a podcast. You gotta
Let's
come make
go.
an appearance.
So back. What's up?
What's good? How y'all doing?
I'm
Man,
great.
just
How are you?
living the dream.
Yeah, same here, same here.
You're golfing a lot, yeah?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm doing good. I think I might come back to Benedict and play. I got a couple years of eligibility, so we'll see.
As you should. Call Frank. He'll
As
let
you
you in.
should. Yeah, Frank would love that. But
Let's
yeah,
go.
I feel the crew's back. We miss you a lot, Mayo.
Yes,
Just-
sir. I miss y'all too.
it's weird not having the whole group, but we try to make do with Mayo and James having grown up real adult jobs.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I know,
Unfortunate. Sad tears,
But-
indeed.
I'm gonna have to edit. I'm gonna have to edit this pod, Mayo. Like what's the word? Do you want one more shot at it?
No.
Like-
Nah, you got it, G. I'm gonna spoil something real quick. Johnny's college football prediction
Bro,
is Alma
know that.
University.
Oh, yeah.
Alma
I
University.
asked Mayo who should win the SEC, and he goes, "Who's in it?" And I gave him the 8 teams or whatever, and he's like, "Alma University is gonna win." Shout out Connor Riley.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Facts. Shout out C-Man.
That's fire.
Boys,
All right, Mayo. It's
having
good
a
to see you.
pod. Good to see y'all.
Mayo,
We
see
ya,
you
man.
on cameras to
See
get
ya,
you guys
buddy.
to do that. But yeah, after seeing Mayo, college
go.
football started yesterday. My family was in Ireland. My mom and dad were at the game. And I have a video that I'm going to show you guys later, Tanner. I'm going to send you so you can put it in the podcast. They were right even with the goalposts when Georgia Tech kicked the game-winning field goal and won. But speaking of that, that's what we get started today. Florida State lost, guys. Like that's a big deal. It's number 10 team in the country. And then we go in. I'll kick it to James first. Before we go to James, here are some big stats. Georgia Tech, by the way, who's full of a bunch of engineers, very smart people at Georgia Tech. They outrushed Florida State by almost 100 yards. Georgia Tech averaged 5.3 yards per carry. Florida State averaged 3.2. Georgia Tech had 7 tackles for loss. Tackles for loss is separate than sacks, by the way.
Yeah.
7 tackles for loss. Florida State got absolutely dominated in the trenches outside of the first drive by Georgia Tech. And it was truly one of the most surprising things already in a very short season so far. But, I mean, James, we were all texting the group chat after. What was your biggest takeaway? Be mindful. Mama Shields is listening.
Well, and I'm on her side, okay?
Yeah.
Because I was high on Florida State.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, right? And my ACC prediction was Florida State's winning the ACC, and they're moving on. Well, guess what? We're about to get into the playoff, and they're not even in it. Like now, for me right now, whatever. That is, we'll get to that. But the biggest question that you guys raised for Florida State was DJ. How is he going to be third school? Former stud in high school, didn't work out the last 2 programs he was at. And he comes to a powerhouse of Florida State, and it's like he's still not very good. And he was not only not very good, he was horrendous. I think that's the best word to say. He was horrendous. Like you look at his stats, I don't mark me for this. I think he went like 19 for 27. So like when you look at that, it's like okay, whatever. But it was just the decisions that he was making, all of that, it was not there, and it's not at the elite level that he needs to be. Florida State.
James, I'll cut you off for 1 second to add to your point.
Yeah.
12 of his completions were 5 yards or shorter.
Yeah, exactly.
Outside of the 2 4th down big throws that he had on that one drive, he was fairly inept the entire game.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think this is a team that I thought should have been in the playoff last season. So this isn't a team that is just like whatever, they can have mediocre quarterback play, yada, yada, yada. This is a team that had a good chance and they still do to win the
They'll do.
ACC,
Yep.
right? The season's not over, far from
No.
over, but it's just you got to go and you will give credit to Georgia Tech and Tanner. You hit it right on the head. You thought they were going to keep it close. Johnny, you agreed. I did not think. I thought it was going to be a blowout. I really did think it was going to be a blowout. But I could not imagine. So last season when Notre Dame played in Dublin, like I was there a month before that game happened, and I was pissed that like I wasn't able to go. And the scenes
Yeah.
yesterday, it looked
Awesome.
unreal. It looked amazing. Obviously, I've been to Dublin, and it's awesome, and it just looked amazing. The Pat McAfee show was electric. But to end it, I would say Georgia Tech, Nick Saban hit it dead on the head. And he said that their offense gives people troubles no matter what, whether it's a scheme thing, whether or not maybe they just have dudes, right? But their defense was always a question mark. And maybe they shut DJ down, or maybe DJ was just really bad, but their defense came to play in Ireland. Shout out to Georgia Tech. Such a big win for them to kind of start the ACC, start the season off. But Florida State, now you got question marks. Now you got to come from behind. And I think it was funny because when we predicted the ACC, I said DJU because I'm still not going to try to pronounce his last name. And the whole
LA.
Yeah, well, sure. In the whole broadcast, they were saying DJU, like,
That's
and I'm
funny.
like, it's funny, like nobody knows how to pronounce his name. So yeah, I would say shout out to Georgia Tech, Tanner, you hit it on the head. And Florida State, they got to come back and try to win the ACC.
What do you think, T?
Yeah, to say I'm shocked that like Georgia Tech won, I'm definitely a little bit shocked because I mean I figured they'd keep it close, they keep it competitive. They were a very competitive football team a year ago. They're 6-6. They played a tough schedule. They played everybody close. That was good last year. So I figured they'd keep it close. Haynes King, year 2 jump in this system. I mean, Georgia Tech's offense looked really good. It looked like Haynes King was comfortable all day long, whether he was running the ball, throwing the ball. The biggest thing for me for Georgia Tech was how they responded after that opening drive by Florida State. Because Florida State, after that opening drive, you're sitting there thinking this might be like 40-0.
Exactly.
They went for 2 and got it. Georgia Tech responds right away. That was huge. Changed the whole game. My thing with Florida State, and this was my concern all year, is last year they had a team that had a lot of guys that played together the year before. And this year's team, there's so many talented guys in the portal that came in. So that's why when you look at this roster, like Florida State's going to be good. But I'm not surprised with the early struggle here out of Florida State just because it's a bunch of new guys, first game playing together. And it was a neutral game, and Georgia Tech's a good team. So I give credit to Georgia Tech. I think the biggest winner actually in week 0 is my ACC pick, NC State, because they don't play Florida State and they don't play Miami. And there's Florida State already with 1 loss in the ACC. I think NC State is sitting there licking their chops. Same with Miami as well. And they beat Clemson.
Yeah. We will see. Before Tanner and I were doing some math yesterday. If you're new, please subscribe. We're very close to kind of getting around that mark where YouTube will start to monetize us for whatever we do.
Dang, you mean we can make some bread doing this?
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
But even that's the thing. If 10 new people watch this and we only get 1 new subscriber, it's worth it. Just trickling to get those numbers up. So, but anyway, Mom, I'm sorry. Maybe skip 3 minutes ahead for this, but I mean, Florida State, they looked inept. And going into the season, we're like, look, they're replacing a lot. Like Keon Coleman was a freaking stud. Let's not get that. Like he went in the second round, borderline first round guy for a reason. Johnny Wilson is an NFL wide receiver. He is a stud. You're replacing a few guys on the offensive line. You're returning you're losing a first round draft pick in Jared Verse on your D line, and then your defensive tackle went in the second round. So you're replacing 4 guys that were top draft picks. That doesn't just happen. And then not to mention Jordan Travis, who knows how high he would have gone if he never got hurt. Regardless, he's a very good college quarterback. You're losing, and that's just off the top of the head, 5 major contributors to a team that wasn't all that deep, because this is similar, and I think it's going to happen to Ole Miss as well. When you don't recruit at a high level and you only rely on the transfer portal, it's not sustainable. And I was talking to my dad earlier, and he had right in the head. You can't build a sustainable culture like that. And it's not like Florida State is some bums in recruiting. Like they're not sitting in at 30th or 35th. Like they're top 15. Like they're doing their thing. But what makes Georgia so good is they have a top 5 class and they sprinkle in the transfers. They sprinkle in an ETN, right? Tanner was talking about the guys they got from Georgia. It's because Georgia's so good that they don't need some of the 4 stars that they get.
Exactly.
That was the first glaring thing that I saw. I was like, wow, like this team is going to be much better when they play Florida in the last week of the season than they were this week because the talent's
100%.
still there. And then I'm going to go back to it. On Florida State got dominated in the trenches. I'm just going to say it again. Georgia Tech, 190 yards rushing, 5.3 yards per carry. That is huge. Georgia Tech should never do that against Florida State. And Florida State secondary held up to the billing. Heisman did not have some crazy throwing game. He didn't have a throwing touchdown, but he was so effective with his legs. And that was huge as well. And then you go to Florida State, 98 yards rushing, 3.2 yards per carry. And Georgia Tech, 7 TFLs. Florida State's offense line looked overmatched, and especially in some of the big moments in the game. And we talked about DJ Uyunglele outside of one drive where he made two big, yeah, you like that, two big fourth down throws. He just wasn't competitive back there. And look, it's disappointing to see. I want to see the best teams with the best records going at each other. And I like Georgia Tech. Like Georgia Tech's not going to make the playoff most likely. I mean, this is a huge win. Never say never, but and I feel for my mom. She was there. They flew a long
Yeah,
way.
that's got to
But
be so tough. I mean, it just
hey,
a heartbreaker. You
it was tough.
travel all the way over there,
It was
and
tough, but they still had a good time. But
well,
uh,
I'll say this one extra thing, like on both ends, right? So Georgia Tech, that's a team that lost to Northern Illinois like 3 years ago. I'll
yeah,
never forget it. NIU went and beat Georgia Tech by one. It was like 22-21 final, right? And to come back and to beat a top 10 program, neutral site, whatever, that's great. Now to the Florida State side, as a fan of Notre Dame and who plays Florida State this year,
so
still a game I'm marking as I'm nervous about,
it's a
right?
marquee
Because
game.
they still have the talent. And then imagine, I don't know what week it is, 7, 8, whatever. You give 8 weeks of those talented guys to start gelling together, dangerous, right? So it's a game I would kill to go for. I would literally kill someone to go to that game, like at Notre Dame, that game, whatever, Florida State,
Hey,
Notre
you
Dame.
wouldn't kill someone. Don't go to
No,
Illinois. Don't.
don't. If someone dies, it wasn't me, and I was not at the game for that reason. But anyway, like that, I'm telling you, it's like one of those games where it doesn't matter if they're 0-1. They're going to be a tough beat. So Florida State will bounce back. Mrs. Shields, you don't have to worry. They're going to be
Don't worry,
back.
mom. They'll be good. They're
You'll
still.
be
I
fine.
think they'll still win 10 games.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was. We didn't expect to talk about week 0 that much coming into this episode because you kind of think you talk about it, good job, but crazy upset. But we've been saving the best for last. That we're doing our SEC and college football playoff predictions all on this episode, and we're going to start with the SEC, the last conference to do. For those of you who are new, those who don't really follow college football, college sports, Texas and Oklahoma are now in the SEC. That kind of started the whole realignment thing. Texas and Oklahoma geographically makes more sense in the SEC than Washington being in the Big Ten or Stanford being in the Atlantic Coastal Conference. But so Texas and Oklahoma are in the conference, which only makes it more difficult. You're returning Texas, who was in the playoff last year and is still loaded again this year. And people forget Oklahoma had a 10-win season last year. Like, let's not act like Oklahoma isn't a better program in the last 30 or 25 years than Texas is. Like, let's not forget Bob Stoops going and win or losing national championships to Florida, but going and he won a national championship in the early 2000s. He lost to USC and Reggie Bush in them, but that was a very good program. Was in the college football playoff with Lincoln Riley for a very long time as well. But Tanner, we will kick it to you first. Give us your sleeper, give us an overrated team, and then give us your conference championship pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start with the conference championship pick just because I think it's the easiest one out of those three for me. I think it's Georgia. Very confident Georgia is going to be in that SEC title game. I'm very confident they'll win that. Um, as far as the other team they're going to play in the SEC championship game, I think there's like 5 teams that could I wouldn't be shocked if they make it. So I definitely going to go with Georgia to win the conference. My sleeper is going to be Texas A&M.
Yep.
New head coach. I think that I saw. I know this is kind of irrelevant, but like I watched Bob Does Sports, right? And they had Johnny Manziel on playing golf with them. And Johnny Manziel hit it right on the head. This was a couple months ago. He said, they finally got a guy in there that's going to go back to those values of Texas A&M, grinding, doing things the right way, fundamental football, togetherness. Jimbo Fisher kind of lost that culture at A&M. I think that culture is going to be kind of restored under the new head coach. I'm excited for A&M. They have some big home games. They get Notre Dame early. I think Notre Dame wins week 1, but I think A&M is going to do some damage in the SEC. That's just kind of my sleeper pick. I would say, what was the other one you wanted me to give?
Overrated team.
Overrated team? I would probably go with Ole Miss. I still think this is a team that's going to make the playoff. Ole Miss, I mean, they have all the talent. I like Lane Kiffin as a head coach, but I just don't see Ole Miss winning 11 games, maybe 9 or 10. But I think they're kind of in that 10 to 11 range. I'm expecting more closer to 9 wins out of Ole Miss. Maybe slightly overrated preseason for me. But I still think Ole Miss is a great team. I would take a Bama over them. I think I'd take an LSU over them right now. So, and Texas for sure. So I think Ole Miss probably 4th or 5th in the conference, and there's some people that have them higher than that. So especially the media polls early. So I would say my overrated team's Ole Miss. Still think they're a good football team though, but just not quite on that level that people are rating them right now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I am going to agree with your national championship pick. Georgia.
SEC championship.
I'm sorry, but anyway,
Before.
Georgia's still national championship pick. SEC, correct. But Georgia, it's like that. It's like the Bama, right? It's just they're just in this cycle of just ungodly great football. And it's fun to watch. It really is. My team hasn't played them, so it's like it doesn't hurt to watch. It's fun to watch them beat anyway. All right, you better chill, okay? So yeah, Georgia, I got them winning the SEC. Overrated for sure is Ole Miss. It's hard for me to say that though because in our SEC prediction, I predicted that Lane Kiffin's going to have a decent year and get the Florida job. That was just a bold prediction that I made in our episode with Florida Gator logo. But it was just one of those things where I'm still confident, and like Tanner said, in fact, I have him in 11th. I have him making the playoff, but I just don't. I'm not behind that Lane Kiffin yet, but I think he's going to do enough, right? He's going to do enough to win games, and they get a very favorable schedule in the SEC. So then for my sleeper, I'm going to go Tennessee. I've kind of secretly become a Vols fan. Like I love SEC football, and I don't want to be a Georgia fan. I don't want to be a Bama fan. Tennessee's close to home, right? I can be a Tennessee fan. It's like a neighboring state, right? Like it doesn't hurt. So I like Tennessee. I like their schedule. I love their schedule. The last 2 games of the year, they play UTEP and Vanderbilt. And it's like, okay, I mean, I don't know anything about UTEP, but I don't think we have to worry about it. They have one tough non-con game. They play NC State. I think
That's a neutral site game, by the way.
Yep.
I didn't realize that. It's in Charlotte, which is the stupidest thing. You're going to North Carolina. Go play at NC State. It's the same thing with Clemson and Georgia. Sorry, grinds my gear.
You're good. No, I'm with you there. When I saw it was a neutral site game, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Where are they playing? They're in North Carolina.
Bank America Stadium, wherever the freaking Panthers.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a tough game. I mean, I'm not super big on NC State as Tanner is, but at the end of the day, it's a ranked matchup after they play Chattanooga. So I look at Tennessee. They play Georgia. They play Bama. They play Oklahoma, but that's it. They don't play Texas. They don't play Missouri. They don't play Ole Miss. So I look at this Tennessee team, and they got a returning 5-star quarterback who has plenty of talent, and I like what they can do and what they've been doing with their program. And so yeah, I'm secretly turning into a Vols fan, so that's why they're my sleeper. But we'll see. Again, we'll get into it. The SEC is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be unreal. I have 6 SEC teams making the playoff. Okay. And that's not crazy. I don't think that's crazy one bit. So I have Tennessee to be my sleeper. Watch out for the Vols because of their favorable schedule.
I like you say Vols.
Yeah.
Vols.
Yeah, I think it's Vols, man.
And anyway, so my predictions are I try to go a little bit more kind of spicy with the SEC because I think anything can happen.
Yeah.
Everyone is so, as they should be, everyone's so hyper-focused on Florida's schedule being like they play the NFC East. Georgia's isn't any easier. They play Clemson. They go to Kentucky week 3. That is a sneaky tough game. Kentucky's going to be a good football team this year. They got Brock Vandagriff, the transfer from Georgia, and they have a really good defensive line. Kentucky is going to be tough. That's a tough week 3 game. And then guess what? Guess where you reward with after that? You go to Bama. You get Auburn at home, Mississippi State at home, to Texas. Those are 2 brutal away games, and it's not done. Then you play UF at a neutral site at Ole Miss. Those are 3 brutal away games. Even if you count Kentucky, that's 4. you're not going 4-0 in the stretch. You just aren't. If you are, then that is crazy. I think Georgia was the best team in college football last year. I
Yeah.
think that Alabama caught them and beat them. And that's why they weren't in the playoff. Georgia lost what I'm hearing by watching other podcasts, listening to other podcasts, is that Georgia's defensive line is not up to the standard word span where they've had Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and people like that. They don't have dudes like that this year on that defensive line. And going up in those 4 hostile environments, and then after they play at Ole Miss, they get Tennessee at home. Tennessee is going to be a good team. You get them at home, it is what it is. But I think so. I think Georgia really is going to have a tough go of it. I think Georgia's going to lose 2 games. And I might be a little hot. I think Georgia's still gonna make the playoff. In fact, I'll do a little spoiler. I have Georgia in my national championship.
Yeah.
So, but I don't have Georgia in my SEC championship because that schedule is so brutal. Who
I
I
like
do
that.
have, one of the teams in my SEC championship, as much as I hate it because I think they should be kicked out of the conference for going to UMass, is Missouri. I have Missouri in my SEC championship strictly because of their schedule. Let me read it to you. Their non-conference goes as followed. Murray State at home, Buffalo at home, Boston College at an 11:45 start time on SEC Network, Vanderbilt at A&M. That is going to be an awesome game, I think, because I agree with Tanner. A&M's my sleeper. Mike Elko is a hell of a football coach, and Texas A&M has a top 10 talent roster in the country. So if someone can just tap into that, they're going to be very good. Don't worry. Then they take a break from conference schedule to go to UMass in the middle of October.
Oh,
That is, I mean, you should be kicked out of the conference for if you're an SEC school going to UMass in the
dude,
middle of
Alabama,
SEC conference.
Alabama did it too. They played the Citadel.
No,
Like,
they did not go to the Citadel.
well, they did
That
not
is
go
different.
there.
You are
That
going.
Well,
Look, it was tradition for the SEC the week before rivalry week. You go play a cupcake. It is what it is. I'll be damned if I ever saw a team go to UMass.
how
UMass is
much is Mizzou making? Is UMass paying Mizzou to go play
hell
there?
no. Oh my gosh. UMass is one of the bottom 5 programs in college football. Like this isn't the Minutemen aren't some staples of whatever conference they're in. They're terrible. Oh my God. I could talk all day about that.
You've been upset about that for about 2 months now.
Yeah.
So,
I like the Citadel poll, James. I got to say, I have visited their football stadium before. I don't think they could host Bama because you go down the street to your local high school and see a high school football stadium.
that's
That's
about
what
it.
the Citadel's football stadium looks like.
Nice.
So I'm glad they aren't hosting Bama. I know
That'd
they
be
would.
awesome watching Jalen Milrow play at my
Yeah.
local town.
Well, you get to watch Luther Burden, who's going to be a top 10 pick, play
Yeah, fair enough.
Massachusetts, by the way.
He is my favorite player in the country to watch, Luther
Yeah,
Burden.
he's
And
very
Missouri's
fun.
got a great quarterback as well in Brady Cook.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They lose their running back, but they've recruited well and they ported well at that position. But then they get Auburn at Bama versus Oklahoma, and then they play another crappy team at Mississippi State versus Arkansas. In terms of SEC schedules, it does not get easier than that.
Nope.
Out of Bama, Texas, and Georgia, to only play one of them, that is massive. That's just absolutely massive. And then I have them in the SEC championship. I have them losing to Texas. I think Texas is going to be really good this year. It concerns me at their running back room that they've lost their top 2 running backs. That concerns me. But I think their skill positions, they got Bond from A&M coming in there to fortify that wide receiver group. You got Quinn Ewers, who's now all of a sudden a senior. I mean, he's been so polarized how kind of his career's been. But I mean, Texas gets Colorado State at Michigan. Talk about a helmet game, by the way. Texas, Michigan. It's a heck of a game in week 2. UTSA, UL Monroe, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Georgia. That group all at home. But don't worry. Then you go to Vanderbilt. Tough place to play. They still don't have half their stadium. And then you get UF at home, and who knows what UF is going to look like by that point in the season. Then you go to Arkansas, who's going to be the worst team in the SEC outside of Vanderbilt. Kentucky at home, and then at A&M. At A&M is going to be an incredible atmosphere. But so those are kind of my reasons for those picks. I do think Georgia is the most talented team in the country, or second most talented team in the country. I think they deserve to be ranked number 1 or 2. I just think that schedule is so brutal. I would be impressed if they came out with 1 loss. I mean, I would be
I like
impressed. People forget that Georgia played in the SEC East, man. They were their tough games were at Missouri and neutral site versus Florida. And then they played Auburn every year, and then you'd get the SEC West team rotated. So I think with Georgia's schedule, again, I have Georgia national championship. I don't have them in the SEC championship strictly based off that schedule. And we talked about Florida a lot in one episode, but a lot of Florida fans watch. So I'll quickly talk about Florida. I change my mind on Florida every day. James and I have a bet. I think Florida wins over 4.5 games because I think that's comically low for the team. That's the 12th most talented team on paper. With that being said, this year is strictly on the coaching staff. You have the talent. You went and poured Elijah Badger. You have Tanner knows this by playing them on college football. You got 6 wide receivers that can go out and play right now. You pour to the offensive line. The left side of the offensive line might be the best part of an offensive line of anyone in the SEC. That's how good the left side of the offensive line is for Florida. The right side is where there's questions. And then you go to the secondary. Florida is legitimately 8 or 9 deep in that secondary. And they're experienced. They went and got Asa Turner, who started in the national championship game for Washington. When he got him, he's going to play the opposite side of Jordan Castillo, who led the team in snaps as a freshman. So he's a sophomore. Tanner knows about him. And then you get Shamar James back at linebacker. Shamar James, I'm going to say right now, might be the most underrated player in the entire country. That's how talented he is at linebacker. But then the defensive line is where I have question marks. I don't think they have a consistent guy that can get pressure and that can even have that threat to get double-digit sacks. So I'm hearing good reports about that from all the Gator podcasts, Gator accounts that I listen to, but it's all inexperienced at that point until I see it. TJ Searcy is a name to watch on that defensive line. But we talked about Florida a lot in another episode. We'll talk about them when we do our previews on Wednesday. The episode comes out Thursday. But for all the Florida people watching, I had to give, a 45-second give there about Florida. But my overrated team is LSU. I think LSU is the most overrated team in the country. I will say their schedule is also brutal, and they get Josh Pate talked a lot about this. They get Ole Miss at home after Ole Miss plays 7 straight weeks, and LSU comes off a bye. So I think LSU will win that game. Maybe credits Tanner's Ole Miss take being overrated, kind of helps that. But I think LSU. I mean, they lost. You don't replace 2. You're talking about Florida State's wide receivers. They lost. LSU lost 2 guys to win the first round. So, I mean, you don't replace that. And their defense was atrocious last year, and they didn't do enough to help it. So, that's why I have LSU as an overrated team. But sorry, that was a lot. I love the SEC. It's my conference
it's great.
that I know the best. But so we'll go back. I have Texas over Missouri. Tanner has Georgia. I'm not sure who you said because
I'm gonna put Missouri in there.
You're who? Missouri?
Missouri, yeah.
I swayed you.
I like Missouri.
Yeah.
I've been high Missouri.
But
I was high Missouri last year.
I think 5 teams could win the SEC. I'd be like, I could see that. And then James has Georgia over.
I'm gonna say Tennessee. I didn't say anything, but I'm gonna say Tennessee.
Tennessee, valid. We haven't talked about Alabama in any of this. I think Alabama's gonna make the playoff, and I think people are gonna hate on Alabama just because Nick Saban left. Kalen DeBoer was a top 5 coach in the country. Let's not gloss over that. And people freak out because Caleb Downs left and Isaiah Bond left. They return a lot of that are gonna come in and be big time contributors.
It's this cycle. It's this cycle of just get dudes, repeat. And to the point is we haven't talked about Texas a lot, and we don't have to, but I will just say this. I've never been to a big time college football game. The biggest college football game I've ever been to was Illinois versus Purdue. So take that for whatever you want.
State was probably bumping.
It was bumping. I mean, it was a good time. But anyway, I'll just say this. When you watch Texas walk out of a locker room, maybe I'm overreacting. They look like they grab the biggest human beings that exist on this earth.
They gotta get off the bus, guys.
Yeah,
you want the first getting off the bus.
We love the trenches, right? And we're going to talk about the trenches all season long. But I am excited to watch the trenches roll at Texas because I was watching some practice clips on Twitter. And dude, these human beings that they just have, that they're 20 years old, they're 6'7", 350 pounds, and they're running like a 5'2", 40.
And this is after Texas lost Malik Murphy, who's a first-round pick.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And do they still have Sweat, the big dude that caught all the touchdown passes out of the?
Sure.
He played fullback for him.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
The big boy, yeah.
Look, I mean, the SEC is beyond loaded. I mean, James, you say 6 teams are going to make it. I could see 6 teams making it, but I think I don't think the committee will.
I totally agree. I have 6, teams. But when we get into it, I have 5, so they can put another Big Ten team in.
Yeah.
So we'll get into it. But
here's how I view the playoff. I know we're about to go into it. You're getting the non-power 4 team. That's 1. Which I think between the Big 12 and ACC. You're going to get another 3 teams right there between those 2 conferences. That's 4 spots. There's 8 left. I think the Big 10 gets 3. The SEC gets 5. That's kind of how
I hate that. But what are you going to do with Notre Dame?
What are you going to do with Notre Dame, buddy?
We'll
We'll
see if
see.
Notre Dame
Well,
gets
yeah,
there. I
we'll
mean,
see.
if
Notre
Notre
Dame
Dame,
just had a in this format. Notre Dame has the smallest margin for error at any team in the country
yeah,
Absolutely.
because they don't play in a conference. But
It's my concern as a Notre Dame fan. I mean,
if you guys think I get worked up about Missouri going to UMass, don't get me started on the power on the Group of Five auto bid. Don't
yeah,
don't get me started on auto bids
it
in
makes no
general
sense. It makes no
with
sense.
the Group of Five auto bid. Anyway, let's get into our playoff. Tanner, we're gonna go the same order we did SEC. Tanner, we'll go to you. Just go 1 through 12, straight down in order, and then we're gonna let everyone give their 1 through 12. We'll come back and then go round by round from there. So Tanner,
Oh.
1 through 12, go down. Who do you got?
so my number 1 overall seed, I'm going to have Ohio State. I think they win the Big Ten and they get that bye. At 2, I'm going to go with Georgia. At 3, I think it's going to come down to Big 12 and ACC, right, for that last bye. I mean they get both of them, but like I have NC State winning the ACC. I think they're going to be better than the Big 12 winner. So I have NC State as the 3, as the ACC championship. And then I think I'm going to rock with Oklahoma State out of the Big 12. I don't think I picked them in our preview a couple weeks ago, but after thinking a little bit more, I like Oklahoma State to come out of the Big 12. So that's kind of my first 4 of those teams with buys. At 5, I got Texas. At 6, I got Oregon. At 7, I got Bama. At 8, I'm going to rock with Missouri. 9, I think Penn State gets in this year. I like their schedule. 10, I mean, I've been back and forth on a couple teams. I I just don't see I don't see a way the Big Ten gets a 4 team. I can't put Michigan in. SEC, I'm gonna rock with Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss gets in. I think they're a little bit overrated. I like their schedule. I know they have tough road games, but I still think Ole Miss is good enough to get in. My 12 seed is gonna be Liberty as the group of 5, and then I'll give Notre Dame that 11 spot there.
I mean, that's
So
fair.
Liberty at the 12.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just say my Liberty's 12. I don't even care. Didn't even do research. Could care less on who that
They're
12
they're
team
they're
is.
they're
Like,
not gonna do anything, but they are by far the best non-power 4 team in my opinion.
that's I will say they've been FBS now for 6 years,
Yeah.
and they haven't had a losing season. So Liberty, it is impressive what they've done, but they're going to be at 12, and we'll just skip right over them. 1, we have Georgia. Sorry, 1, we have Ohio State. I'm sorry, I'm tweaking. Looking at my SEC. 1, we have Ohio State. 2, we have Georgia. 3, we have Miami. That is recently changed based off of yesterday's results from Florida State. So I'm back on this.
Tanner, hit him up.
Come on, T. Come on, T.
I'm not doing that because the Gators are beating them week 1.
Yeah,
All
you
right,
down.
That's
You
fair.
down.
That's
Right
fair.
over
I'm
left,
all
baby.
in on the Gators winning that
Hell
game
yeah.
week 1.
Anyway,
Right
I
over
got
left.
Miami. I got Miami at 3. I have Utah at 4. I have the Fighting Irish at 5. I have Texas at 6. I have Oregon at 7. So now my next 4 are SEC, but I have to get rid of one of them to put another Big Ten school in. So between Missouri, Tennessee, Alabama, and Ole Miss, I'm going to get rid of Ole Miss. Unfortunately, I think those 4 should be in. Playing the season off in my head early, but I'm going to put Penn State in for Ole Miss. So we're going to go Missouri at 8, Tennessee at 9, Bama at 10, Penn State at 11, and then blank at 12 because I just could care less about who that
That
is.
was a flame.
It could be Northern Illinois for all I care because sure they might go 12-0. Who knows? No, it's not going to happen. They play Notre Dame week 2. But yeah.
I don't know. Marshall went in and beat Notre Dame a couple years ago.
They sure did. It wasn't, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of things have happened.
So, yeah. So for me, I would just go 1 through 12. I have Ohio State at 1, Texas at 2, Miami at 3, Oklahoma State at 4. Oklahoma State's offensive line has a mortgage, 3 kids, and maybe 2 wives at this point. That's how old they are and how many combined starts they have. The most intriguing thing for me is how they're going to handle the teams that lose in the conference championship. Because if they drop them down or if they lose, no team is going to have any incentive to go play in the conference championship. That's why I have Oregon at 5, losers of the Big Ten championship. Georgia at 6, even though they're not in my SEC championship. I have Missouri at 7, who was. So I do think they might swap right there, whatever. But both of the Big Ten SEC losers will be in the top 7 seeds, in my opinion. 8, I have Notre Dame. 9, I have one of the other ACC schools. I literally have 4 written down here because I don't know which way I'm going to go. If you had to put a gun to my head right now, I'd say Virginia Tech. That's what I do. I think they get a very favorable schedule. They get Clemson at home. They go to Miami on a Friday, and Miami's not an imposing road environment. And I really like their quarterback. They run the ball very well. I still don't like that though. I mean,
It's hard.
another team from the ACC is getting in,
Yeah.
and I just don't. It could very well be Florida State. It could very well be Clemson. Well, we'll see. I might lean more toward Clemson. I might go back and change that. 10 I have Bama, 11 I have Penn State, 12 I have Memphis. And this is where I think that the committee is going to put their foot down because Liberty does not play a Power 4 team. Memphis goes to Florida State. So this is where I think the committee is going to show, oh, we care about the group of 5. They need to have a good strength of schedule. Memphis, you have 2 losses, but you played at Florida State. Oh, you're in. The fact that in college football, we have an auto bid for for teams that play in the American or in the whatever it is, really
Conference
is an
USA.
embarrassment. It's really an embarrassment to the sport, and it waters down the regular season because Memphis, Liberty, Tulane, who's also going to be good, couldn't hold some of these teams jock, and now they're going to be in the playoff. I mean, who are you taking? Memphis over Ole Miss, Liberty over Ole Miss, Liberty over Michigan, Liberty over Oklahoma, Liberty over Tennessee. I mean, it is freaking embarrassing that it's come to this, that we're going to have a group of 5 team get an auto bid. And I will never get over that. The playoffs going to keep expanding because the people that run college football are just,
They're greedy.
I can't say too many mean words, but they
They're
don't know what
greedy.
they're
They're
doing.
greedy.
And all they do is care about putting money in their pockets, and they're taking away the legitimacy of the regular season, all to have these playoff games. And
It's
I
just
think
like them trying to change March Madness.
yep, it's going to eventually,
the
it's going
bracket's
to ruin
perfect. The bracket's perfect.
You
It's
don't
gonna
touch
ruin-
March Madness.
Yeah,
It's
it's
everything
it's
about
going to ruin the sport.
It's like the
But this-
Bible. You're not going to go rewrite the Bible, are you?
I've
Exactly.
already I've already had Purdue lose to a 16 seed. I don't want Purdue to lose to a 20 seed. What are we
Yeah.
doing?
Dude,
But
yikes.
the people that are supporters of the playoff, they are supporters of the playoff because of these matchups. Because they're like, oh, you get home playoff game. These are the matchups that they're happy about. I'll just say mine first. Memphis goes to Oregon to get body bagged by 40. Penn State goes to Georgia. That's a cool game. In my bracket, I have Bama going to Missouri and the Virginia Tech going to Notre Dame. So just in my bracket, the ones that like what I have as the home playoff games, which is why 12-team playoff on-campus playoff game is going to be awesome. It's like, bro, Oregon hosting Ohio State is better. Georgia going to Bama is better. Georgia going to Texas is better. So I will never get the 12-team playoff. I like that it doesn't like Florida State is not completely eliminated from the season now, but I just like college football means something, man. The regular season means something. That's why people love college football. It's that every play, every second matters. And now it just doesn't anymore. And we could have a 3-loss team in the playoff. And it's
But unfortunately,
crazy.
for 99% of the teams in the country, one week loss doesn't matter. But when you look like a team like Notre Dame, who again, their schedule is not very strong. I'm the first to admit it, right? They went out and they did not get a tough schedule. They're playing the MAC. Their ACC schedule is not very tough besides Florida State. Obviously, they got, I mean, shout out to Notre Dame and A&M for saying, yeah, let's go play each other week 1.
Yeah.
That's not out of nowhere a great matchup, right? Those are 2 very good programs. So I'm nervous for Notre Dame when you look at our schedule and you see A&M week 1. It's like, holy cow, this could put us in a rabbit hole where we can't afford to fumble again. Whereas, like Johnny said, if you're Oregon and you go and lose to Ohio State, you're fine. Or if Florida State goes and loses to Georgia Tech, hey, don't sweat it, right? Like you could be fine. But Notre Dame doesn't have that luxury, and maybe it is. Maybe the committee's saying Notre Dame go join a conference.
Oh, that's what they want. I guarantee you that's what they want. I mean, if
there's
Notre Dame joins the Big Ten, Notre Dame is a top 10 brand in college football. You argue top 5, and they would salivate over that. But yeah, I mean, it's just I won't say it's sad what it's coming to. And to your point, James, I want to say this one more thing to answer your point, James. Why would you schedule out of conference matchups? If you're Florida, why would you schedule Miami and go play UCF? Why? When you're playing literally NFL teams during your schedule in the SEC? Not actually, but I mean, it's really, you could say it's supported, but like what, like we saw what Oregon played at Oklahoma State last year, like that's freaking awesome. Or at Texas Tech last year. That's awesome. I see we're going to see less of that.
But that's why the SEC and all the conferences should make a 1 week. You get 1 week of non-conference games. I'm tired. The SEC's 8 games, 8-game SEC
Yeah.
schedule. I'm tired of it. You
Yeah.
have 4 games.
God, don't get me
These
started.
guys,
I'm
these
so
guys are
sick of
practicing.
Texas
These
playing
guys are
Colorado State,
practicing.
UTSC, and UL Monroe. Like,
Yeah,
are you kidding
these
me?
guys are literally practicing. So,
Yeah.
okay, freshmen. The freshmen that are coming in, they're graduating in December from high school, and they're moving to Florida State to go start practice in January, right? Or in February. So this idea of we need practice, like preseason, right? NFL preseason, that's not necessarily needed, right? But it's to give those practice squad guys reps. This whole idea of we need 4 weeks to have Alabama go and practice against, we'll just say the Citadel again, because I'm not sure what their non-con is, or Missouri is going to go play UMass. It can't happen. In my opinion, the college football, I'm okay with the playoff. I'm not in love with it because Notre Dame, I think it's shafted. But I will say this. I think it needs to turn into you get one non-conference game. Otherwise, the conferences are big enough to where you have to go play 11 conference games. So
I don't hate that thought there. I gotta say, the 12-team playoff, I'm a little bit confused on why it's 12, but I also don't hate this. I don't hate it at the same time, because when I look at that's those second round games when we're in the final 8, you're talking neutral site games, and you have 4 really, really good games, most likely.
it's going to be great TV.
I think it's going to be great to watch once it gets in
But
that
are
second.
those 4 games worth ruining the rest of the sport? And that and the whole NIL situation, like I'm not saying it's ruined. Everyone's going to watch college football. It could be the most viewed season ever, but yeah. But
It will
I
be.
agree with you, Tanner. We do get some unreal matchups that we wouldn't normally get. But all right, let's get off our soapbox. Let's go predict the national champion. Tanner, who do you have advancing out of the first round games and take us all the way? I mean, just take us all the way to the national championship. Go right ahead.
Well, I don't think I'm gonna go through all the first round games, just because like I think those home teams win. So I like to, like I said, I'm high on these second round games. So I'm just gonna skip there because these second round matchups are awesome. And you have 3 NC State hosting number 6 Oregon in mind. I think Oregon beats NC State, so I think Oregon gets in the Final Four. And then the same with Texas beating Oklahoma State in my 5 versus 4. So my Final Four, I have Oregon, Texas, Georgia, and Ohio State. And I think it's Ohio State. It's got to be Ohio State for me this year. They're the best team in college football. Ryan Day, like if he doesn't get the job done this year, he might get canned. Like that's how talented this roster is. I don't think Liberty competes at Texas. I don't. Notre Dame in mind, I have going to Oregon. I think that's a good game, but I think Oregon wins. My 10 versus 7 would be Missouri versus Penn State. I think so. Like those are good games, but I just don't see the road teams going in and getting wins there in those environments. So I think those second round matchups, those where it gets good. Ultimately, Final Four of Oregon, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State. Ohio State comes out on top.
And what do you see in your Final Four? And that's what it's going to be all of our Final Fours. It's going to be 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten.
Yeah, which I love. I love for the sport.
Yeah.
Here's my and I did the same thing for Tanner. I made my 12 and then I gave my 4 because I don't really care how that bracket ended up working. I just have my 4 teams. But I'll say this one thing, and it'll be curious how things move on as the season continues to start and progress for some teams. When you look at the rankings, they are going to have to be careful, maybe, or they're just going to say, okay, we're going to have an SEC matchup in round 2, right? Because there's going to be so many SEC schools. It's going to be impossible to not have an SEC versus SEC in round 2. So for me, now you have to look at the politics of college football and see how they rank teams based off of what round 2 matchups could be like. And I'll be curious to see how that unfolds.
And it shouldn't do it. And the fact that we're even saying that about college football, worrying about how you do ratings and potential matchups in a freaking playoff is just, I mean.
But we've been doing it. But we've been doing it since there were 4 teams. Because when there were just 4 teams, we've always said if Georgia and Bama, they weren't going to be 1-4. It was going to be 1-3 or 2-4. They were never going to play each other round 1.
But it wasn't as egregious because now you can get 5 SEC teams in, and it's impossible now.
Here's what I think is going to end up happening. I think so. Hypothetically, in mind, I have Penn State and Oregon in it, right? They're both in the Big Ten. However, Penn State does not play Oregon in the regular
Yeah,
season.
that is true.
So I don't think the committee is going to shy away from having two
Yeah.
conference teams play each other potentially that didn't play in the regular
I'd
season.
like that, and that'd be cool. That'd be great. That'd be
And
great for the Big Ten.
the big thing is, will it happen in round one? Because in my matchup, in my round one, just off my rankings, I have Bama, Missouri playing in the
Yeah,
first round.
I have SEC round one too.
Will
Yeah.
that happen? That's a big question. But anyway, going to the 8, I have Notre Dame, Ohio State, Bama going to Missouri and winning. I do have one road team. Bama's my road team winning. Georgia, Miami, Oregon, Oklahoma State. So my round of 8 matchups aren't as juicy, but we get Bama, Texas, again, a rematch from 2 years ago. I don't think they play this year. Notre Dame, Ohio State, rematch from last year. Great game. Georgia, Miami. If Miami's number 3 team in the country and 11-1, that's a great game. And then you have a legit argument that the 5 seed is the easiest draw in all of it.
So.
I mean, I think there's more of a benefit being the 5 seed than being the 1 seed.
That's why I'm asking for it. I want Notre Dame at the
exactly.
5. Totally agree.
But anyway, I'll go Ohio State, and then Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Texas. That means Ohio State and Oregon will play 3 times this year, according to my predictions. If the semifinal goes, is that good for the sport? Ohio State and Oregon playing 3 times? I mean, it could be. Yeah, I could see both arguments, yes or no. You get to see 3 very high level football games. We're just gonna have to see how it plays out. And then Georgia, Texas. It not in my bracket and not in my predictions. Do they play 3 times? They only play twice, but they could very well play 3 times. And this could be a matchup of these guys playing 3 times. So I have Georgia as the 6th seed making the national championship, playing Ohio State. And I have Ohio State circled right here winning. But when it gets down to 1 game for the national championship, give me the better quarterback. And I think Carson Beck's the best quarterback in the country. So I'm going to go Georgia over Ohio State, even though I have Ohio State circled on. I have my blur screen on. Anyway, Ohio State circled on my sheet. Give me Georgia. So I have Georgia. Tanner and James have Ohio State. Regardless, I mean,
I haven't even given mine yet.
I thought you'd went all the way. My bad.
No. I was just saying hypothetically the landscape of SEC round 1, but I'll be quick. So my last 4 teams are Ohio State playing Notre Dame. I want that matchup. I want a rematch. I thought we should have won last year. Whatever. So I do have Ohio State playing Notre Dame. I have Georgia then playing Texas. And again, I think those are 2 games that the ratings for those games would be off the charts, legitimately off the charts.
You're talking about 30 million people watching those games.
Correct. So I have Georgia playing Notre Dame in the national championship, and I'm not going to give you the winner because I can't. Because if that happens, one, I have not been alive besides the Cubs in the World Series where my team has been like we watched the Super Bowl last year together, and I was like sweaty palms, sweaty forehead, and my team wasn't even like remotely close to making it. So I like Tanner last year went through it with Purdue basketball. A world where I see Notre Dame hypothetically playing in a national championship would be unreal. I tell you what, I wouldn't like to play Georgia, but I do have Notre Dame playing Georgia in the national championship. A lot of that is homer pick. I can take the hate comments to that one. I'm going to stick tall with my team because I do think Notre Dame's a hell of a team this season. But yeah, I'm not going to give you a national championship pick, but I'll give you who's playing in it, and it's Notre Dame versus Georgia. So.
All right, so I'll give you his national championship pick. He picks Georgia.
No, I'm not. I can't pick. I can't pick that.
I mean, that was a fun episode, guys. Went a little long, but how good is it to have college football back, regardless of conference realignment? The fact that Cal and Stanford are going to play like NC State and Miami and whatnot. And SMU, by the way, who ACC school, big tests at Nevada yesterday. So
shout out to Delaware State flying 5,000 miles to Hawaii after missing their bus, mind you, or missing their plane. They missed their plane because their bus shut down, and then they went and covered. So just so gritty.
So gritty.
Shout out to Delaware State. Are they the Hornets? Are they the Wasps? Are they
something? They got a stinger. Got a stinger.
How about Montana State with the come from behind win yesterday?
Unreal. Tanner and I tell you what, Tanner and I sat in his couch yesterday. We're not having James here anymore, so when we watch sports,
I'll be back. I'll be back.
I know you'll be back.
Week 1 for the Bears.
I'll be there too. But anyway, so Tanner and I are sitting there like screaming as Montana State is coming back and beating New Mexico. That's where we're at in our.
It means we're back.
College football. It does mean we're back.
It means we're back.
So we're gonna have an episode Wednesday. Comes out Thursday. I'll be in the swamp this Saturday. for the Gator Miami game. I leave Thursday to go home for that, so very excited for that. We will have full predictions for all the important week 1 games, and then we'll also do a little bit of NFL because so we got a lot of divisions to go through before NFL starts the week after. But yeah, I mean, good episode, guys. A lot of fun. If you made it all the way to the end, leave a like. Again, we've talked about subscribing. If you're new, don't have an account, make a fake Gmail just to hit subscribe for us. I mean, we just need to get to a certain number where if you look at our views, like we almost have 200,000 views on YouTube. And if you convert that to what we'd make, it's a few $1,000s what we make from it. You know, it's not a lot. We're going to do this regardless of the views, but yeah, we're going to try our very best to come at you with 2 episodes a week during football season. But until then, guys, we'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you later.
See ya.
Peace.